Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order our Lucan Biddulph Council meeting for Tuesday, February the 2nd. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Recently, the Middlesex London Health Unit has reported an outbreak within the township of Lucan Biddulph, but expressed that this is a focused COVID outbreak and the risk to community is relatively low. It is important to remember that COVID is in our municipality as it is with every community, and the precautions that are in place need to be respected and adhered to. The Middlesex London Health Unit will only report an outbreak on their daily summary if it is located in a long-term care home or a retirement home, a school, or where there is a higher risk or higher concern for public transmission. Because we have been asked about the spike in COVID numbers in our community and concern over there being an outbreak, Lisa has been in contact with the health unit and the facility that has been impacted by this recent outbreak. In working with the facility, we are able to provide this further update to the community. There is currently an outbreak of 12 cases of COVID-19 at Crest Support Services in one of the mental health supportive housing program units. The outbreak, is contained, and Crest is working very closely with the Middlesex London Health Unit during this time. No residents have been in the community since the onset of COVID-19, as per ministry regulations. Crest has been providing residential support to people with serious mental illness and or developmental disability for over 50 years. Crest Support Services would like to thank the community for their ongoing support and best wishes. Everyone is currently doing well at Crest Support Services, and Crest is confident that the outbreak will be declared over within the next week. This is a good time to remind everyone to adhere to the protocols we've been instructed to live with. Be physically distant when in the presence of people not in your limited bubble. Wash your hands. Stay home if you feel ill. Stay home because that's what we're supposed to do. Get tested if you show COVID symptoms, and mask up. I know that you will all well, we do not have any delegations, no public meetings tonight. So we'll move right into the adoption of the minutes. There are 3 sets of minutes in front of us this evening.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, your last 2 sentences, you went off air of your commentary. I just thought I'd let you know your last 2 sentences, for some reason you went off air.
Oh, okay. That was just to, I know that everyone would join me in wishing the best and sending our best wishes to Crest Support Services and staff.
Okay, so, I just thought I'd let you know there.
Okay. Can you hear me now? I'm getting a kind of a funky message on my computer.
Now we can, but does everyone else understand what I was saying there? Yeah, okay. No.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes, and we actually have 3 sets of minutes in front of us this evening. I'm just pulling them up, and they are for our council meeting of January 19th, our special meeting of January 27th, and then our special meeting of January 29th. I know that you've all had a chance to look at them. If there's nothing that needs to be amended or added, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those minutes as circulated. Councillor Westman and a seconder, Councillor Regan. All opposed? And those are carried. Business arising from the minutes. We've got a number of items on there, and I believe Councillor Regan is going to speak to the OPP station one.
I am, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? I just want to make sure we're good. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So last, we're at the Roma conference. I had the privilege and the experience to help Madam Mayor do a presentation to the Ontario Provincial Police, actually addressing one of the concerns the Deputy Mayor had about having conversations or maybe perhaps having the detachment moved. There was a presentation, I believe it's in the package tonight somewhere, that the mayor did most of it. I kind of followed up at the end, but I think what it was the Minister of, the Solicitor General was Minister Sylvia Jones, and also the other person we spoke to as well was the OPP Deputy Commissioner Chris Harkins. I think when we sort of gave them our message, we wanted to be sort of proactive, progressive, and we're kind of looking for partnerships. And I think that was one of the things that the Deputy Mayor talked about, is trying to ensure and making sure that we keep that OPP detachment, because, and I didn't know this at the time, but apparently those decisions are made and there's not a lot of consultation with the local municipalities. So when we were speaking to them, I thought perhaps they were a little bit surprised with this, but they did say, and Madam Mayor can correct me if I'm wrong, but they said that there was really no discussions with respect to short-term or long-term with moving that detachment. The minister was actually quite, I thought, quite taken with our presentation. Some of the slides that we talked about, the connection, historic connection with Peter Butler. She was surprised by that, and she just thought was, and again, the presentation was done by our staff, which we're really grateful for, and we thank them for that. But they did say that, and I think just to help us, is that there was no talk of them moving to detachment, wasn't even on the board. And what I think was more important was that they did mention, I believe, that if there was that it ever came up, that the township would be part of the consultation and be part of the talk. So we would be involved in that conversation. I think that's something that we were looking for as well. So, and I don't know if there's anything else, Madam Mayor, that you wanted to add to that.
No, I think you covered it off. I would agree with you. I think it was a good discussion. I think it was great that we were proactive. You've got the presentation in front of you, so if you've got any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. But at least we've made that connection. They know who we are. So.
And just one very quick thing, Madam Mayor, if I may, just wanted to thank staff. Ron, thank you, and thank your staff for putting all of that together. I know there were a couple of revisions that we did, very professional looking, and I would give it a 10 out of 10 if I was marking it. So thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
If I may, thank you very much. I'm happy to accept your congratulations, but really the congratulations should go to Maggie Smith in our office. She did a great job putting that all together. So thank you.
Great. Okay, and we did have governance training on Friday, so I think that can probably come off business arising. If there was anything else that needed to be discussed, Councillor Reagan.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, are we also going to take the Lucan OPP station off of that as well? Will both of those items come off?
I think they can. I think we've done what we can at this point with the Lucan OPP station. And I think that it is now, it's a topic that we're all aware of. So, we can continually revisit it as a council 2 years, 3 years from now.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you.
So I'm sorry, was there anything else that anybody wanted to speak to with regards to business arising? Okay, then we'll move on to our correspondence that was received. The first one that was highlighted and pulled was, of course, the presentation for Roma. There wasn't anything else that staff pulled to discuss, but I'd be happy to pull any, if any members of council had a question or a concern on any of them. The one I might just mention is E, and it's from ABCA, and it's their annual call for nominations for the Conservationist of the Year Award for 2021. And maybe we can put that on our social media, Lisa. In the past, we have had a recipient. I believe former Mayor Paul Hodgins was a Conservation of the Year Award winner. And we don't know who is out there doing great things with their land. So certainly if any members of the public or anybody from council or staff knows of anybody, then we should probably get a nomination in. If nobody wanted to speak to any of those items received, then could I just get a motion to accept those for information? Councillor Masterakis and Councillor Westman. All opposed? And those are carried. Moving on to committee reports. CEDC, we don't have one. Did you, I know you sent a note out about a date. Do we have that date, Lisa?
Yeah, it was February 17th.
Okay. Thank you. Blue Water.
We did have a short meeting. The electronic eye robots for sorting is just getting implemented now. They're working through the hiccups. They're having the odd issue, but nothing serious. So that's kind of exciting. And then the only other thing I'll have to talk at our next meeting, or if staff maybe could talk to Francis on, or Lisa maybe can correct me here. On Friday, I got a call from a resident out in the country and just said, "Hey, Dave, my blue box didn't get picked up." So I emailed that to Francis, the address, and I said, "Hey, Francis," and he just sent back right away, just said, "Hey, the truck couldn't make it there today, and they're going Monday morning." But I'm sitting there going, "Okay, but how? If that'd be great. If they, I think that I want staff, I guess, to correct me if I'm wrong. I think the protocol should be, if they know they're going back out on Monday and couldn't make it down the road, they should call someone in our staff to post that on our website. And so at least it's posted saying, the Sainsbury line from here to here is getting picked up Monday. So at least it's somewhere and it's consistent. So would everyone agree with kind of that direction? So yeah, just a comment. Yeah, so I'll talk to Francis on that, and then point of contact I'm assuming would be Lisa. And I'd like to see that kind of flow. If they know they're going back out Monday, we should be posting that, and we need to be notified. So that's it.
So typically now, if that happens, they don't let anybody know. They just send the truck, and it's just hit or miss.
I think
it's inconsistent. Bins are still there.
I think you're right. I think the I think the thought process is, Madam Mayor, is that they would leave their bins out, knowing it didn't get picked up, with hoping they'd be picked up Monday. But I just think there should be better communication.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any questions for Dave on Blue Water? Okay. Moving on to Lake Huron. I actually participated in 2 meetings with Lake Huron. The first one, both Jeff and I sat in on, and I think you'll all remember that Andrew Henry, who's the director for both primary water systems, made a presentation to us. It's probably about 18 months ago now, I would think, about having to make some formal decisions on kind of confirming what the governance model will be for the primary water systems. And of course, that's for Lake Huron and or for Elgin, for which would they get their water from Lake Erie. Because there's some question as to when they set up the model back 20 years ago, that it's not a legal entity. And before we get worried about that, they're able to sign their contracts and everything whenever there's a question through the City of London. So we don't need to be concerned with how they're conducting business, but what the concern is that it does need to be addressed. And so I think you'll recall that there was a presentation that they'll be looking at either a joint municipal services board or municipal services corporation. So this was just the very first meeting, kind of giving everybody the background. It is a committee that is made up of representatives from all of the member municipalities for the Lake Huron system and the Elgin system. And it should be noted that whatever happens going forward, there'll still be 2 systems. But the process will probably take 12 to 18 months to go through and come to a final decision. And Jeff and I will update you. We're going to be meeting regularly. We're just in the process of deciding how regularly that happens. It will be a big decision. There will be a legal opinion that will be required, that we'll have to get to make sure that how our community is being protected is the way we want it to be, but that will all come out in time. As I said, this was just a very introductory meeting, and we'll be meeting quite regularly for the next 12 to 18 months, and Jeff and I will continue to update you on that. And then the second one was, and I believe Jeff sat in on another session, and it was just, I think I mentioned it to you maybe in one of my updates after a board meeting, is there's never been a strategic plan for the water systems, and they're just in the process of developing that. And it was a very focused meeting. They've done all of the heavy lifting at the staff level, where they've kind of already determined what the strategic priorities should be, which is great, since I'm certainly not the expert. And I've been involved on the board for a number of years and slowly understand more and more. But it was great to see the staff actually kind of put together the strategic focus, and they're just looking for feedback, and it'll be presented to the board, I think, at the March meeting. And that's where we're at with that. I don't know, Jeff, if you had anything else to add to those at all.
Madam Mayor, not really. Just the one comment I had on the strategic plan and staff. It's a little more mechanical than what our process was. We when we did ours here, it was we looked at a lot more, such as culture and that sort of thing. Whereas their strategic plan is very asset oriented and that sort of thing. That would be my only comment. Yep.
Hence why I was glad that their staff did most of the heavy lifting on it. So, fire boards. We have some upcoming meetings, Ron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Lucan Biddulph Fire Area Board is scheduled to meet next Thursday, so that's February the 11th. And the Biddulph Blanchard Fire Area Board is scheduled to meet the following Thursday, so that would be February the 18th, 2021.
Thank you. ABCA and Upper Thames, Councillor Westman.
Yeah, I've attended a meeting for each. Actually, we've had extra meetings, but they're not particularly relevant to anything to do with our municipality. But something did come up at the ABCA that we've already done a bit of a notice out to the public about bodies of water and water safety and ice, thin ice. There was an incident at the Piddock Conservation Area where some visitors had gone through the ice and they had to be rescued. So even though the weather's colder and the ice is thickening up, people need to be really cautious around bodies of water, especially now that the snowmobiles are getting out. The trails are starting to get a lot more use, and there are bodies of water, ponds and streams and rivers and drainage ditches where there could be thin ice and people could get into trouble real quick. So I want to get that message out. Upper Thames, that's the message from Upper Thames, rather. So the message from ABCA, we're spending a lot of time on shoreline management lately. As most people know, the lake levels are at a record high, and the erosion to the shoreline, especially in cottage country, is getting significant. And we've had an opportunity over the years to do some study and to learn a lot about shoreline management. And it is actually very staggering to see the amount of erosion that's happening. Many of the property owners there, the cottages are losing several meters of their backyards. Over a period of 5 years, they'll lose 10 meters. that adds up pretty quick when you've got a backyard that's only maybe 100 feet long. So a lot of the property owners along there are in a position where they're being forced to do erosion control construction there, and it's quite expensive. So you may be hearing some things in the news. There's been some challenges from property owners with ABCA, but on top of that, I mean, even with COVID, people are encouraged to enjoy the outdoors and get out and get some fresh air and sunshine. I did notice they sent out a Facebook notice about tree planting. Some of our hardwood trees are already sold out, but there are still lots of tree species available. So if people are looking to get trees, this is a good time to make your order. Get a hold of the Sauble Bayfield Conservation Area office. Get your orders in for your conifers, and there are some deciduous hardwood trees still available. So get the order in as quick as possible, and you'll be able to have them for the spring. So that's it.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Westman. Any questions for Alex on either Upper Thames or ABCA? Okay. Parks and Rec, Paul.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. We have the minutes for the last Parks and Rec Advisory Committee meeting in front of you. We also have a meeting coming up February 10th. The position application has closed, and we will have that to council shortly for consideration.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any questions on the minutes to Paul? Councillor Masterakis.
Oh, sorry, not a question on the minutes, and maybe it's councillor comments later, because I had a resident ask if maybe the staff was aware of the Thorndale Arena had an update or construction done over the last year during COVID. So they thought, hey, maybe there's some learnings we can get if we happen to be successful, with our bid for an arena on how to go through a COVID period and a build. And I'm not, so it was just a comment from a resident about the, I think it was a Thorndale complex that they did a start to finish, and maybe there's some lessons learned. That's all.
Okay, thanks. Paul?
Yeah, if I may. So when Thorndale, what happened, they had, it was actually a community center. So they, it's been on their budget for about 3 years now. And they had to go through, they had some issues where they went through a few committees before they had a final vision put together. But absolutely, if it's something council's interested in, we can obviously see what they did with COVID, what challenges they met during COVID, and absolutely do that.
Yeah, thanks. They need to be congratulated. It was just about a year ago now that they, well, I guess it was about a year ago last week, because it was when I was at Roma, that they woke up to the news that the community center had burned down, and they really do need to be congratulated for rallying and getting it going. I mean, they were about 90% there, finalizing the draft plans anyways as to what the new building was going to look like, but certainly they had to move on it a lot faster than they anticipated. So congratulations to that group in Thorndale. Okay, moving on to our staff reports. Ron, you've got a activity report for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the first item on that is obviously the emergency orders from the province were extended, including the stay-at-home order until February 9th. So I believe that's next Tuesday. So we wait with bated breath to see whether that's going to be extended or whether all parts will be extended. Obviously, with the schools back in starting back yesterday, that was some very good news for a lot of parents. They were quite relieved. So our crossing guards are back on duty. So again, next Tuesday is kind of a pivotal day. So we wait and see what happens there. I talked about both fire board meetings upcoming. The Lucan Biddulph Emergency Control Group has a scheduled meeting for this Friday. And again, with the case counts sort of dropping off in our area, it's going to be interesting to see where we're headed in that regard. So the Middlesex Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. So this is the community safety plan that is being done by all the lower tiers within the county of Middlesex under the umbrella of the county. Consultant Jennifer Kirkham is heading that up, and she, many members of council may recall her presentation to council. I think it was about a month ago. That we were able to get an extension. The province extended the deadline for the implementation of that plan until July 1st. I know there's a number of municipalities out there that weren't overly happy with only getting 6 months, but Jennifer is quite confident that Middlesex County is going to be able to meet that deadline. So, and again, we have an update meeting tomorrow afternoon scheduled for that one. And then the final issue on that memo, we have an upcoming LPAT hearing, and that is in regards to the Verhoog rezoning. And that is scheduled for Friday, February 26th at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I just sort of identified what the case management conference is, because it's not the actual hearing where both sides get to argue their points. It's more or less about identifying the parties, that kind of thing, setting a date, how many witnesses, sort of setting the rules of debate, if you will. So it sort of outlines, and there is obviously under number 4 there, the possibility of settlement if possible. So we can always keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best, but this will be an interesting one at the end of the month. And that is my report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Ron at this point? Councillor Reagan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ron, the LPAT hearing, is that a public meeting so we can join if we have the link?
That is a good question. I do not know the answer to that. I believe it's a public process, but I'm not entirely sure. So I will have to find out.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ron at this time? Okay, Tina.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, just wanted to let you know there is a bylaw included at the end tonight for passing of a severance agreement between the township and Holland Farms. That's just implementation of a condition of the consent, which was issued a year ago this month. So we're getting close to being able to finalize that and issue the consent schedule later this month. And that was one of the conditions that they enter into in a severance agreement with the township. And just regarding Daniel's question, if I recall correctly, but Ron and I will look that up, but I believe on that notice of the case management conference for Verhoog, you do have to register for the meeting in advance. So we'll confirm that.
Probably to be a party to speak to it, probably. That's probably
right.
It. Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Tina at this time? Hey, Finance, Catherine.
Thank you. So before I get to my report, I just want to mention that the intern tax bills are going to be generated and sent out this week, with the first installment due on February 26th. And then the report I have in front of you is regarding the appointment of an auditor. So the Municipal Act requires that we have to appoint an auditor, and the term can't be more than 5 years. So our current auditor, their term expired at the end of December. And so they would like to continue as the auditor for the next 3 years, as a term of 3 years, and we've given a price there. And we have a good working relationship with Scrimmager and Company. They've been a good help with staff learning, and they have a good history of which makes a good, efficient audit. I was going to say, so so the municipality can either reappoint or the same auditor, or try to go out and find a new auditor. But if common practice is to just reappoint the same auditor unless there's some issues on either side. So my recommendation would be that council appoints Scrimmager and Company as the auditor for the next 3 years. Okay. And the letter is attached that she sent. So.
And any questions for Catherine on that? Councillor Masterakis.
more a comment. I've heard great things from you guys and other municipalities about Scrimger, so I'm not too excited about the renewal. It's just past the time frame where we couldn't really get into an RFP anyways, if we wanted to, because now we're in the middle of audit with them, correct? So if the contract expired in December, we'd have to start an RFP process. If we wanted to look for someone else, we really wouldn't be in the spot to, would we?
Ron, or I don't know who wants to take that one.
Go ahead, Kathy. Sorry.
Though currently, yes, the Scrimger Company is under, they're currently auditing, but they're auditing 2020, which included in the current contract. So they won't be able to start the 2021 audit until they were appointed. So that's why the timing is now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, that makes it clear.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Just wondering why they're suggesting just 3 years and not the full 5.
That's, sorry, I can answer that. But I think that was the same as what they've done in the past. They typically only been appointed for 3 years. I think that's what their comfort level is, and then gives you a chance to not commit to 5 years. I mean, we could ask them if council wants to, they could add that, but they feel comfortable. I think that's their common practice is for 3 years.
Okay, thank you. And there's a motion at the end that we can deal with at that. Did you have anything else, Catherine?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. No planning and Public Works, Jeff.
Madam Mayor, I'll begin. I do have one report, but before I start that report, I just would like to say to council that that I did bring this report forward, but that it's not. It's a bylaw, or it's a report that I bring forward for purpose of status quo, and that council does have the ability here to make a decision how they would like to proceed on this. So. Prior to 2021, Lucan Biddulph did not come out and permit off-road vehicles on their roads. There is exceptions, agricultural use, that sort of thing. So to keep status quo, when 2021 came in, there was a change to the Highway Traffic Act, which now that we have to pass a bylaw to permit or to prohibit. So they've reversed it. So to keep the status quo, I bring the report and a draft bylaw. The bylaw is based on the county one. The county has passed this bylaw. There's a number of other municipalities, Middlesex Center, Strathroy, Caradoc, Adelaide, Metcalfe, that are passing something very similar to this. I would point out that Southwest Middlesex does want off-road vehicles on their roads to come into town and use the facilities. And just so that council is aware that when we say off-road vehicles, they still have to be licensed, they still have to be insurance, they still have to be a licensed driver driving them, they still have to follow the rules of the road, they have to have turn signals, they have to have lights, that sort of thing. Very similar to we've seen snowmobiles on our roadways in the past. So it's not that it's wide open, that there's going to be dirt bikes flying everywhere. They still have to follow the rules of the road. Having said all that, though, it has been in the past that they have been prohibited in the township. So I bring this report forward to basically follow the status quo on that. So if there's any questions, I would take them now.
Okay. Councillor Westman.
Yeah, I'm glad there's a clarification in there that supports farm use, because a lot of our farmers do use side-by-sides and utility vehicles between their various different farm properties rather than driving, other vehicles. So, yeah, and I do see a lot of off-road vehicles on the road, quads and side by sides, but in our area, and my ward's mostly agricultural, so I do see a lot of farmers using that type of vehicle to haul small items across the road to their various farm properties, or during harvest or cultivation kind of thing. They are using them to get around to service their different vehicles and what have you. So I want to make sure that we support that they're still able to do that kind of work. But that's my only 2 cents on the matter.
Thank you for that, Councillor Westman. Any other questions or comments on this? Councillor Masterakis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jeff, is this just a shifting of liability, you think, for us to potentially take on the risk? Is that why this is?
No, I don't. To be honest, I don't. Other than the fact that I think the government wanted to maybe make things a little more clearer, and the fact that they do permit snowmobiles and that sort of thing, and this way the municipality has to now say no to the vehicles. I think it makes it more clear than rather than the other way, when it was just a little bit, we could allow it to kind of go under the table and the police could do what they want. Mm-hmm. I think now this is where it says the township has to either pass something or not pass something. So okay. I'm not sure liability is the proper word in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? So we don't need a motion on this because there's the bylaw that we will approve at the end. So it would only be if anybody was not wanting to approve the bylaw, then you're going to have to deal with that at the end. Other than that, what else you got, Jeff?
Okay, just a couple of brief updates and one a little longer update. So the one real update, we did have the tenders on Frank Street close, and we did have 10 bidders, which we had great competition. It was an excellent, we had excellent bids. I'll be bringing a report to council on that either next council meeting or the one after quite shortly. So we'll be able to see all the numbers and that sort of thing, but at least I'm pleased with the results. So that was really good. Second, we did have a drop in water pressure in Granton, and the staff was on site up there, and there was a computer. They were changing up something on the computer, and in the process of that, the pump system shut down at a time when there was a lot of showering and dishes or washing, and so everybody realized quite quickly that there was a drop in pressure there, but it came back on. They turned the pumps back on, and there was never any concern or any. It just was a quick blip in the radar. So I just wanted to mention that. The other update I wanted to give everybody was on February. Oh, I don't have my calendar up here. February. Just bear with me for a second here. February 9th. BM Ross, we're scheduling a meeting to meet with BM Ross and to, like Matt says, it'll be a kind of a class on 101, starting the ECA or EC of the expansion project at the Lucan wastewater plant. So that's great news. They're not wasting any time, and we're going to get at it. Having said that, one of the updates I did ask was if anybody wanted to send me any questions on our meeting that we had last week, because after thinking about things, there's always questions that may have popped up. So I just wanted to go over a couple of them real quick, and I'll just go through. And if there's more questions at the end, by all means, just ask me. So one of the first questions was, is the water tower capacity big enough for the expansion? And not to get into too much detail, but with the master servicing study coming in the next month and a half, that will be addressed in detail. But there is enough capacity in the water tower now. But at some point we will have to keep an eye on it, and it doesn't last forever. But more details will follow in the master servicing study on that, and we'll get a real idea based on population and then there can be a comparison for everybody to make. And that's hard because population, if we have a business comes in and they use a large portion of the water reservoir, it relates to how many people. But at least if we talk population, you can get an idea how big the town could or will expand based on the services we have. So another question that came in was industrial land expansion. What will it include? What happens if it requires a lot of water? What effect would this have on the water system and the sewer system? And my answer to that is, if an industry does come in and they do require a lot, or they're going to put a lot into the sanitary system, we'll have to sit down and convert that into residential or as we talked about last week, EUR's units. So that will be addressed. There is a built-in reserve for commercial and some industrial in the numbers. So for instance, I'm not sure if everybody realized that when we talk about a commercial development that may be coming, there is a reserve built into our plants and our water system to allow that commercial property to be developed, or an industrial property to be developed. Having said that, if somebody comes in and wants to process, say, food, which takes a lot of water, we'll have to address that on an individual basis. I had a question about how does Granton come into play if we're going to do an expansion in Lucan, and is this part of a study that we're looking at right now? And I'd just like to say that the township has approved the EC for the expansion in Lucan. The Granton system is a separate system. However, they do connect. They all are one. There's, everybody pays for everything. So if we don't distinguish between Lucan and Granton, but the systems themselves run separately right now. Having said that, I think it would be, we're not looking at Granton right now because we're concentrating on Lucan. But I think when we get into the design part of Lucan, there might be a question to look at how Granton's functioning and how we're designing the Lucan wastewater treatment plant. Because right now, for instance, the sludge from Granton is trucked to Lucan and is stored at Lucan's plant because Granton doesn't have enough of it on site there right now. So there does have to be a little bit of integration between the two plants, but at this time, no, we're strictly sticking with Lucan and we're keeping Granton separate as it is right now. There's been a budgetary number put forward, and it was talked about that was the number that included a lot of I don't want to say studies because that makes it sound too big, but they're going to look at a lot of different things to moving forward on this. And the question was, if we don't have to do it all because we already have the plant and we're really just adding on to the plant, if some of those studies or some of that information didn't have to be looked into, would we be saving money? And yes, we did kind of budget the bigger number, and that we would downsize as we go through the project. So that's kind of a short answer there. But once we get into it, we'll know pretty quick what we're, in the next couple of months, what we're going to spend on this. So if we increase the plant size and therefore increase the output, can the current drainage system handle it? And what we're meaning by that is, the question came up is, and I know there was the Heenan drain going out the back. And again, the answer to that is we did do a study. The Conservation Authority was part of it for the ministry to look at the drain out back, and we have been given a green light, and that's why we're proceeding. Having said that, until we actually design the plant, we still have to give more information back on the design to the ministry, but the green light has been given. We've crossed that hurdle on the Heenan drain. So there was a mention when we had that meeting last week on expansion that there was an offhand comment that we when you go further out in town, the pipes get smaller. and that would we have to dig up the streets to put in bigger pipe to allow more development. Again, the master servicing plan that's going to come out is going to answer that question in detail. They'll be able to trigger pipe sizes and where we're good and where we have some concern. But having said that, I want to make sure everybody's aware that if there was the need for a pipe change in size, that's a development. That's not part of the existing tax base. That would be part of a development that would have to take place, and therefore we would be working with the developer on those changes. But again, I think once the master servicing study comes through, there'll be a lot of detail on pipe size and how things will get through the village of Lucan, or the town of Lucan, I should say. The last one I just wanted to touch on was there was a question came forward is have we started looking at financial modeling or projections on how the expansion is going to take place, and the answer is yes and no. Yes, there's a very basic projection involved with this. It's very basic. And I'll just give you a little bit of a breakdown on the projection of it. Is that we know basically a cost estimate, and it's very basic, and that cost estimate will be paid for through growth, and so we'll be able to break down the development charges to reflect that. And having said that, on the other side of the coin is that our utility bills, monthly utility bills, we do pay a capital levy, and part of that levy is paying for replacement or repairs to the Lucan wastewater treatment plant. So budgeting and financing, we know how we're going to proceed with this in just a basic level. And then once we get into the design, the no side comes in is once we do the design, then we'll know the exact figures, and we'll be able to go back in and look at the development charges, and we'll be able to look at the capital reserve fund, and we know that there's going to have to be this is going to be paid for up front. So a financial plan, once we know the details, then we can set up a financial plan to move forward on this. So that's a question where, yes, we know the basics, but no, we don't know the details until we get into the design of the plant. We can actually figure out how much it's going to cost us and that sort of thing. And a lot of that, I'll be honest with you, we'll have to be careful. We won't know a lot of those costs until we get ready to go to construction, because with inflation and numbers and all sorts of things, a lot of that we can say it's going to be this, but that's 4 years down the road or 3 years down the road. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves too much on that. So that was the questions that came forward. I'm not sure if that triggered anything more or if there's anything else on those questions. If anybody had any other questions on the expansion or the meeting that we had last week.
Thanks for that, Jeff. Did anybody have questions? Councillor Masterakis.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Not necessarily to Jeff. I'm just thinking about we have a potential RENA project if we're fortunate to get funding. We have this project, both of which, depending how much funding, and that's what I don't know. I don't know that model, how much development charges covered and so on. But it's kind of like your kids going out and they want, in my view, your kids going out want to buy a house and a cottage at the same time, potentially. They go to the bank and they need to know how much money's coming in. And then how much does this restrict them from putting walkways in the community, putting up will this restrict us in other ways? Can we cash flow both, I guess, is the question. And what does that leave us later? If we get a cottage, we can't go traveling to Europe, let's say, or whatever the case is, you can't buy your boat. So that's my only thought. Does this restrict us in any way if we come across with the two projects in similar timeframes, or is anything that we can bring forward to look at that?
Just, Madam Mayor, if I may, I think one of the comments I would like to make is that the two projects are very, I don't want to say they're separate because they're obviously in our municipality, But I think you'll find that when we sit down and do the financial modeling, or how you want to present that, or they'll come from different streams, and there'll be different, like in the expansion side of things, we know basically where we're going to fund some of that, and we've already been planning for that through the capital levy and then eventually through the DC charges. So it kind of gets separated off on different, and Catherine will be able to comment on that. She does keep track of different funds and different reserves and that sort of thing. So I think the only thing that we would, from this expansion side of things, is once we start with the expansion, we would have to then look at the sanitary side of things, what we're doing in the future, because there will be a portion of the capital levy go towards some of this. But at the same time, we've been planning for this. This is what we do with our financial plans, and so from the expansion side of things, I don't see it affecting our other operations and our other side of what we're going to do in Lucan. So
okay, thank you, Jeff.
Catherine, did you want to chime in on anything?
Just wanted to add that if any sewer projects, that's a separate, sewer pays for sewer, so it wouldn't affect the tax side of things, the general government side of things.
Just to follow up, so
Sure.
My thought was that if we borrow additional money, it's kind of the same pot infrastructure we borrow from if we need to. That was my only thought. If we have to increase one line of credit for the municipalities, is that what happens? If we have debt on board for the two projects, we have to carry anything?
Who wants to take that one? Ron?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So every year, Councillor Mastarakos, we actually get a notice from the ministry outlining what our repayment limits are. So, and it's a large number. Let me tell you, I would not be comfortable suggesting that we get anywhere close to that number. But that notice should be coming in fairly shortly, and that will be included in the council package when it comes in. So you'll see that number, and it is, like I said, it's a very large number, and it depends. The way they calculate that is what our repayment capacity is on a yearly basis. So it depends on whether you borrow it over 25 years, 5 years, that payment obviously differs. So it is an interesting piece of paper. When it does come in, we do include it in the council package. So we will just keep an eye on it. I think it comes in, I want to say the end of March-ish, somewhere in there.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Okay, was there any other questions for Jeff on that? Okay. Anything else, Jeff?
No, that's it for tonight.
Okay, thanks so much for that update and addressing all those questions that you received from Wednesday till now. Parks and Rec, Paul.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So obviously, the memo that I have submitted to council has since changed over the weekend. We were unfortunate and we lost our ice to plant failure. So take this now as an information report, and just to look at the numbers in that report. We have a good opportunity with a hockey school coming up that hopefully, if we can solidify, we're going to proceed forward as soon as the provincial government allows us to return to sport, and we will be reinstalling the ice, which could lead to some more opportunities for members of the community who missed out on the winter season.
Any questions for Paul on his revised report? Dave, Deputy Mayor.
So sorry, Paul, did you say the plan is then to put the ice back in when deemed due to this potential renter?
Yes, if so, as soon as we can confirm with this renter, because they would like 50 to 55 hours of ice. Minor hockey usually takes 45 to 48 hours, so it would be well worth it to potentially make up for some lost revenue that we've already had this year. And but only if we get that confirmation will we put the ice back in. So as soon as the provincial government says on a Friday that on Monday we can go back to recreation, then we would turn the ice plant on and begin building ice. And then a week later, we'd have ice for them.
Oh, that sounds good. I guess my only concern would be obviously that expense, and then obviously he or she would be a week or two out from probably starting the rental, and obviously we got that expense and doing it, which I'm in favor of. But I certainly hope we get a non-refundable deposit, just in case the government changes their mind again, that we protect ourselves with a non-refundable deposit if that's their ask. That's just my input.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for Paul on his report? I guess just the one question, just because we lost the ice and the plant failed doesn't mean that there was any damage done, I guess, right? It was just because of the environment.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a common thing that happens to ice plants during the wintertime. But just having the cost savings is one of the risks of the cost saving of keeping the ice temperature up, that you don't have that window for recovery.
Yep. So. Okay, thank you. Okay, can I get a motion just to accept Paul's report for information? Councillor Reagan and Councillor Mastarakis. All opposed? And that's accepted. Did you have anything else, Paul?
No, that's it for tonight.
Okay. Economic development, Lisa.
Good evening. A couple of things tonight. I just want to update everyone on the community improvement plan. So I have a draft in my hands. So we're just going to take about a week or so and kind of review it. A few staff members, and we'll get back to the planners with our comments. So we're looking at probably open house mid-March, and then hopefully that'll go back to council then, and then we'll just wait for ministry approval as well for that. So it's moving along. It's a good draft, so hopefully everyone will be happy with that. We recently finalized, I'm not sure if everyone saw, a little video that we did for Discover Lucan Biddulph that promoted the continuation of to shop local during this time, because many of our businesses are still open, whether it's for curbside pickup, takeout, gift certificates, those sort of things. We want to keep encouraging people to keep shopping local and keep supporting local. So we partnered with the County of Middlesex, and we had some funding from FedDev Ontario. So to take a quick 60 seconds of your time, and if no one's seen it, I will preview it now. So just give me a quick second to share that. Let's see where it went. Sorry.
It's probably right there.
I had it set up. So just give me a quick second to get it back again. Oh, yeah. Okay. There we go. So hopefully everyone can see that.
Yep.
Small businesses are a large part of what makes a community so unique and resilient. While we continue to shop and dine locally through the power of social media, we also have the ability to expand our reach with a message of continued support for our local business leaders. conversation going. Like, comment, post, and share why you love local and why others should discover Lucan Biddulph. Support local. Together, we are Middlesex Strong.
All right, so that's our little video. Just thank all our, so we had 5 local businesses that, volunteered, and we also included a few of our staff members' kids to come out and help us out. Tina's boys were at the mural, and it was Rhonda's son was trying on a shirt. So, and of course the voiceover was Mayor Kathy. So excellent video. It's being promoted on Facebook, and we look to kind of continuing to do the same sort of thing. Maybe when businesses start opening up, we'll have more of a thank you kind of video. And so, yeah, so it's a nice little promotion. I think people really quite liked the video. And so, yeah. And
actually, a friend of mine let me know that she saw it. It must have been how Facebook promotes it when you promote your post or something, because she had clicked on a news story from, I don't know, some news Facebook page, and that was one of the ads on the news story. So it wasn't even just seeing it through a promoted post on Facebook. She saw it in a subsequent click. So that's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
It is interesting with Facebook how you can definitely narrow down your audience, and you can pick people who like beer, people who like dogs, people, you can narrow all this stuff down so that you start kind of reaching some of the markets you're interested in reaching. So
yeah, nope. Thanks for that. I think it's a good little video. So, any questions for Lisa? Okay, moving on. Councillors' comments. Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 3 really quick things. I'm going to ask for council support so I can attend the Good Roads Conference at the end of the month. The second thing is I received some compliments. I just wanted to pass compliments, and I mentioned this to Jeff earlier. I had a couple of residents actually just speaking with me over the last couple of days, thanking me for getting our money's worth. The sidewalk plow has been out several times. I know there's been a lot of ice and black ice, and so I just wanted to pass a compliment on that. The ratepayers have mentioned to me that they're glad to see they're getting their money's worth with respect to that sidewalk plow, and there have been no gouges in lawns that I know of, Jeff, so we're good. So yes, and the other thing I just wanted to ask is, apparently this was on a Facebook page, but I also had one resident actually mention it to me, and it started actually yesterday, the concern about the high rate of speed on Gilmore Ave, especially around 3:30 when the kids are getting out of school. This is just a comment, and I'm just passing this on. They were very concerned and emphasized the word high rate of speed. So I don't know what that is, but that's something that I know that we've been looking at. We're looking at it. The other concern that they had was, as people are leaving town out of Saintsbury between Kent and Gilmore, they're picking up that speed. They're not going 50 kilometers. They're telling me they're moving, 80, 100. I don't know. I haven't been there. But again, that's just another area of concern as they go out there. And I know there was, I believe some time ago, I think it's the deputy mayor had actually talked about the speed signs out there as well. So I think that was changed. I'm not sure, down to 50, but apparently that's not being adhered to. So again, I'm just passing that on as a safety concern from a couple of residents. And we're good. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Regan. I guess just follow up on that, Jeff. We did have in the spring, we did put the speed sign on Gilmore at one point, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did that for a short period of time, and we wanted to bring it back to Beach in Gilmore, particularly the school area.
Yeah.
And we just never got it there in the fall. So it's, again, it'll be on the list to hit that area for sure, as well as a couple other spots like Alice and a couple of other spots that we're finding that we're getting a lot of complaints coming in on. So.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you for that, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Any other councillor comments? Councillor Mastarakis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple of items, and back to Jeff on the sidewalk machine. I've been asked if there's an opportunity to clear the paths around the ponds instead of just the sidewalks for walkability during COVID and the winter months. So something if you could look at as an option. Has that been looked at before, Jeff?
I haven't heard that it has, so I'm not aware that it has been. And I guess I should say, Madam, through the mayor, not sure that it has been. The only thing, I mean, it can be. I did ask around. I know Middlesex Center has started. They have a trail system also, and part of it of that trail system is paved, and they are this year beginning to maintain it. Particularly through COVID, people are wanting to get out and do more walking. So the only thing I would before we did anything, and I would look for direction from council on it, because once you start, you can't go backwards. And once you start maintaining it, you have to maintain it as a basically like a sidewalk. So for instance, we had that big snowfall on Christmas Day. We would have to pay someone to maintain that walkway on Christmas Day, just because that's we accept that, and it can be. I mean, we have the machine. I would look at the condition of the trail itself. If we can maybe provide some hard surface and make sure it's in something that can be maintained, and it could be just a loop. It could be just a small section of it to increase the walkability. It's certainly not that difficult out of our realm to do. It's just that it adds to our service level, and that would be something I would think that we should talk as and want to get an idea whether we want to increase that service level before I comment any further on that. So.
For sure, if it's possible and feasible, to do, of course, yeah. And if that's the direction of council, thank you.
Yeah.
Another question. We had the Respect in Workplace session. There was Q&A. Would it be possible to get those Q&As, the responses back from Cindy McNair in writing? Can I get a copy? Can we get a copy of that just to see what, because it was a verbal report. It'd be great if I could get that in writing. Is that possible?
So you want the report that she gave us, or?
No, we have the slide deck.
Yeah.
There was a series of questions and answers that happened post the slide deck that were questions of Cindy McNair in regards to the Respect in Workplace policy. Can we get the responses from Cindy McNair in regards to those questions?
So I know after that report, or after that session, she had said any follow-up, because just like Jeff did, you have your report and you think about things. And I know that there were some questions submitted, so we never did get a response. Is that what you're saying?
No, Ron presented at the previous council meeting, but it wasn't a written report. So if I could get those responses in writing, that's all, just to see what those responses were.
Is that something you have, Ron, or is that something you would be looking for direction, more formal direction, as opposed to like, yep.
If I may ask a question, Madam Mayor. So I guess I'm confused as to why you would need it in writing if it's in the recording, was it not?
Yep.
It's
it would have been recorded.
Already, so.
Right. So well, and this may be different with municipalities. So if in the past where there's been sessions with, especially on something that involves, occupational health and safety, the act, the law, and there's questions from staff or council in regards to this, and there's answers. Typically, I've seen that shared with everybody. Just say, if you have this question, here's the answer. And I think it's good for everybody to hear what those answers are, especially with something under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. So I just think it'd be good practice to have those answers and not have to, staff won't have to go to the video to see, oh, what was the answer to that question? Just some good Q&A to have in regards if staff have questions about it. And some of the questions that were asked, maybe from staff, that we could hear the answers to if those were the case too.
So just to be, sorry, go ahead.
Deputy Mayor, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned with starting this precedent on having staff rewrite meetings and questions. I'm confused on how this benefits our community, but I don't know. Why don't you replay the video and write it down? I don't know. Anyways, I'm confused.
Okay. Did Councillor Regan, did you have something?
I did actually, if I might. Yeah, I was just wondering if it's, I've looked at, the guy sometimes will go back and I just go through the sections, and I know the answers are there. I mean, that would just mean sort of opening up to having a whole transcript. Like I thought that's the way we record them. I'm recording this one now. So if you need to go back, like personally, because I actually wanted to go back, and there were sections that I wanted to do because I couldn't remember what I had said. So I do go through. So the answers are there, but I don't know if we're doing that just for the questions, are we just going to end up doing that just a whole transcript? And I don't know if we want to get into that, do we? Because we've got it, like we've got video,
right.
So that's why we're doing the video.
Yeah.
I thought, anyway, those are just my thoughts, guys.
Okay. No, I thought there was specific question Q&A. So I thought when there's specific 5 or 6 items, here's the report on that. Or tonight we said, hey, can you follow up Jeff Little with some of those Q&A questions? And just so I know what you've got there. I don't think it's setting any wild precedent, but anyways, there doesn't seem to be support, so that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any other councillor comments? Okay, then we will move on to changes to budget, notices of motion. Okay, and then we will move into the motions in front of us. Okay, let me just pull these up. Yep, okay. All right, resolve that the Council of the Township of Lucan Biddulph authorize Daniel Regan to attend the OGRA virtual conference from February 22nd, 2021 to February 25th, 2021 at a registration cost of $655 plus HST per person. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Westman and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Manders. All opposed? And that's carried. Resolve that Council accepts the recommendation of the Treasurer as presented in report number FIN-01-2021 and appoints Scrimger and Company as the auditor for the next 3 years. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Regan and Councillor Westman, and all opposed, and that's carried. Resolve that if no one cares to speak to these bylaws on their first, second, and third reading, that they be considered to have been read a first time and passed, read a second time and passed, read a third time and passed, and that they be numbered 09-2021 execution of severance agreement for Holland Farms, 10-2021 off-road vehicle bylaw, 11-2021 the confirming bylaw. And can I get a mover and seconder for those, please, or for that? Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders, all opposed, and that's carried. And resolve that the council meeting be adjourned at 7:44 p.m. Mover and seconder for that, please. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Masterakis. And hand. All opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.